Hey everyone, today we're going to do a deep dive on one of the very first major villain groups in One Piece, Baroque Works. And I'm here to tell you, they weren't just a simple warm-up for the Straw Hats. Nope, they were a blueprint for a whole new kind of enemy, one that was way more terrifying than you probably remember. Okay, so let's get right into it. When you think Baroque Works, you probably think, oh yeah, the first big organization Luffy had to take down. Kind of like the first real boss fight before the Grand Line got serious, right? And look, that's a fair take, but it's also missing the much scarier picture. Because when you really start to peel back the layers of what Crocodile built, you see it wasn't just another powerful pirate crew. Not at all. It was a perfectly designed model for a modern criminal empire. And its real danger, its true power, was never about how hard its members could punch. It was about its brutally effective system. So first up, let's talk about their structure. You know, unlike most pirates who fly their Jolly Roger loud and proud, Baroque Works operated entirely in the shadows. Their strength came from their invisibility. They were built less like a pirate crew and way more like a modern-day intelligence agency or a ruthless corporation. And this gets right to the heart of their philosophy. Most pirate crews, you know, whether it's the Straw Hats or even a Yonko crew like Whitebeards, they're built on bonds, trust, a found family. Well, Crocodile saw that as a massive weakness. He threw that idea out completely and built his empire on the total opposite: fear, anonymity, and pure, cold ambition. The way he did it was just brilliant. He created this informational firewall. Basically, every agent operated on a strict need-to-know basis. The grunts at the bottom had no clue who their co-workers were, and pretty much nobody knew the real identity of the big boss, Mr. Zero. Just think about that. It means if one agent gets caught, or even decides to betray the group, they have almost nothing useful to give up. The system itself was self-protecting. And this corporate ladder wasn't for show. It was enforced with an iron fist. Those codenames created a super strict hierarchy, which led to this intense internal competition. You did your job perfectly to keep your rank because you knew that failure could literally get you eliminated, a lesson Mr. 3 almost learned the hard way. It was a genuine, cold-blooded meritocracy. And here's the kicker. The really scary part about all this. When a normal pirate captain gets taken down, what happens? Their crew falls apart, right? But Baroque Works? It was different. Since all the agents were just in it for themselves, not because they loved Crocodile, the organization could have easily survived his defeat. If another powerful player had stepped up to be the new CEO, that machine would have just kept on running. So this incredible structure is what allowed them to use their #1 weapon. See, they didn't conquer countries with cannons or armies. Nah, they used something way more sinister and way more effective. Large-scale, systematic deception. Baroque Works slipped into Alabasta like a virus. We're talking thousands of agents, the billions and the millions, embedding themselves into every single level of society. They were shopkeepers, bounty hunters, they were even pretending to be nuns. By the time the kingdom even realized it was under attack, it was too late. The enemy was already inside the walls pulling the strings. And it all led to this, Operation Utopia. I mean, this is honestly one of the most sophisticated evil plans in the entire series. The strategy was pure genius. They didn't just attack the king, they destroyed the people's faith in him. First they created the crisis, then they framed the good guy, then they positioned their own guy as the hero, and then they just sat back and fanned the flames of civil war, waiting to be handed the keys to a kingdom that had torn itself apart. Now, a conspiracy this huge, an army operating in the shadows, that takes money. A lot of money. So how did Crocodile fund this whole thing without just acting like a regular pirate and raiding ships? Well, this is where his planning gets even more impressive. But first, let's just appreciate the sheer scale we're talking about here. This wasn't some small-time crew. This was an organization with a payroll of over 200,000 people. That's a massive enterprise, and it needs a steady, reliable flow of cash. And here's the genius of how he did it. Instead of risky plunder, Crocodile went into business. He opened Rain Dinners, the biggest casino in all of Alabasta. Think about it. It was the perfect front. It generated this massive passive income stream by draining cash from wealthy locals and oblivious tourists. And that financial stability is what really set Baroque Works apart from the pack. With that kind of money, Crocodile could buy anything he wanted. Weapons, information, he could buy the silence of corrupt officials. It gave him a level of operational security that most pirate crews could only dream of. Okay, so we've got the structure, the methods, the money, but what about the people? How on earth did Crocodile convince thousands of ruthless criminals to work together so effectively? Well, he didn't sell them on loyalty. He sold them on a contract. And this, right here, is the psychological masterstroke of Baroque works. Most of his top agents were wanted criminals, right? Assassins hiding from the law. Crocodile's promise to them was simple. Help me build this perfect nation, this utopia, and you won't ever have to hide again. You'll become the new ruling class. He gave them a chance to trade a life on the run for legitimate power. And what's so fascinating is when you find out what these stone-cold killers were actually dreaming about. Mr. One, the ultimate assassin, secretly wanted to be a superhero. Miss Valentine, a chocolatier. They weren't just monsters, they were outcasts who at some point had simple, ordinary dreams. Utopia was this sweet-sounding promise that gave them a reason to fight for something again. So in the end, their allegiance was nothing more than a contract of convenience. They were cold, professional operators who would abandon a comrade in a second if it meant getting the mission done. Their loyalty was never to Crocodile, it was to the future he was selling. And that's also what made them so fragile. The second the personal risk became greater than the potential reward, that contract was broken. All right, let's bring it all home and talk about their legacy. Why does this villain group from way back in the beginning of the series still matter so much to the world of One Piece?
Well, for one thing, we can't forget that these agents were legitimately powerful. I mean, take Mr. Five's Bomb Fruit, an ability that makes your entire body explosive in the hands of a New World veteran. That power is absolutely devastating. Let's be real, their weakness was mostly just because they showed up so early in the story.
But here's the most important reason. They never actually went away. Think about it. Key members like Crocodile, Nico Robin, Daz Bones, Bon Clay, Galdino, they didn't just disappear. They went on to become major players in some of the biggest events in the entire world. From Impel Down to the war at Marineford, they were all graduates of this ruthless system, and they carried those skills with them.
Which brings us to one last kind of provocative thought. If a fully formed Baroque works with its invisible corporate structure, its economic independence, and its mastery of psychological manipulation emerged in the New World today, could they operate on the same level as a Yonko crew, or even Cypher Pole? It's a pretty chilling question to think about.
You know, when you think back to the early days of One Piece, Baroque Works kind of feels like just another group of villains for Luffy to punch, right? But what if I told you they weren't a crew at all? What if they were something else? Something way more modern and honestly a lot more terrifying. We're gonna peel back the layers on this organization and see how it was run less like a pirate crew and more like a cutthroat corporation. So yeah, what if a pirate crew was run like a ruthless startup? This is the key to understanding everything about Crocodile. He wasn't building a band of swashbucklers, no way. He built a shadow corporation, a ghost in the machine, designed for one thing, a hostile takeover. So forget all the usual pirate stuff, treasure maps, sea shanties, all that. Think performance reviews. Think brutal downsizing. All right, so to really get this corporate beast, we're gonna break down its business model. First up, we'll look at why that whole family thing that most pirate crews have is actually a massive flaw. Then we'll get into Crocodile's management style, which is all about fear, and his, let's call it his HR strategy. It's chilling. We'll even see how he compares to another big shot in the underworld. And finally, we'll see why this whole system was built to be, well, almost unstoppable. Okay, first things first, to really get why Crocodile's model was so different, so revolutionary, we've got to look at what everyone else was doing. You see, most pirate crews, even the big ones, they all have this one fundamental weakness baked right into their DNA. They run on emotion. I mean, think about it. Crews like Whitebeard's or even Luffy's, all their strength comes from those bonds, right? The trust, the whole we're a family vibe. But that is also their single biggest vulnerability. Because emotions, they can be manipulated. Just look at Whitebeard, one of the most powerful pirates on the planet, and he gets brought to his knees because one of his own sons stabs him. For Crocodile, that was a liability he was just not willing to accept, period. And this is where you see Crocodile's solution. It's so cold, so calculated. He literally engineered emotion right out of the system. Loyalty and trust? Nope. Replaced with anonymity and fear. Those emotional bonds, gone. Replaced with cold, hard numbers. KPIs, key performance indicators. Just corporate jargon for, are you hitting your targets? His agents weren't a family, they were disposable assets, each one operating in their own little bubble, totally cut off from everyone else. So this whole idea of fear and disposability, it wasn't just a philosophy, it shaped the entire structure of the organization. What we're looking at here isn't a crew, not really. It's a corporate command chain, and every single piece of it was designed for two things: maximum efficiency and zero liability for the guy at the top. And man, this just lays out the ruthless genius of it all. Step 1, the CEO, Mr. Zero, is a complete ghost. Nobody knows who he is. That gives him total control. Step 2, information is kept in silos. An agent over here has no clue what an agent over there is doing. That creates a natural firewall. So think about it. If one agent gets captured or decides to switch sides, they can't give up anything important, because they don't know anything important. The whole thing is built for spies, where every single employee is seen as a potential risk that needs to be contained. And that right there, that's the company culture in a nutshell. Those number code names, they weren't just for show. They created this brutal dog-eat-dog hierarchy. Your value as a person was literally tied to your number. And if you messed up, if you didn't hit your targets, you were gone, eliminated. I mean, we saw it with our own eyes when Crocodile was about to just execute Mr. 3 for failing on Little Garden. In this company, there are no second chances, no do-overs. Okay, so you've got to be asking yourself, who on earth would sign up for a job like this? Right? And this is where Crocodile's HR strategy is both masterful and just deeply manipulative. He wasn't looking for loyal followers, nah. He was looking for broken people. That quote says it all, doesn't it? He didn't give them a family. He gave them an exit strategy. It's so powerful. He went after assassins, criminals, people who society had thrown away, people who were trapped, and he didn't offer them a hug and a place to belong. He offered them a deal, a cold, hard business transaction. You help me get what I want, and I'll give you a way out. I'll give you power, legitimacy, a life where you're not constantly looking over your shoulder. And this is what makes it all so disturbing. I mean, just look at this. The irony is just heartbreaking. Mr. 1, this stone-cold killer, all he ever wanted was to be a hero. Miss Valentine, a ruthless operative, she just dreamed of being a baker. Crocodile found these broken dreams, these little flickers of hope, and he weaponized them. He twisted their ambitions to serve his own bottom line. Operation Utopia? See, that wasn't just some cool-sounding mission name. That was the ultimate employee benefits package. It was the 401k, the stock options, the whole deal. For a bunch of outlaws who had absolutely nothing left to lose, the promise of becoming a founding father, a ruler, in a brand new, legitimate kingdom, you can't write a better contract than that. It was an absolute masterstroke, tying their own selfish dreams directly to his grand corporate vision. All right, to really see just how unique Crocodile's model was, let's put him in the ring with another big-time underworld CEO, Don Quixote Doflamingo. Now, both of these guys were absolute masterminds, no doubt about it, but their business philosophies, they were night and day. This chart just lays it out so clearly. Doflamingo, he was an industrialist, right? He built a manufacturing empire, smuggling weapons and making smiles. He operated with brute force and that super twisted, coercive family thing he had going on. Crocodile, on the other hand, he was a corporate raider. His whole game was stealth, espionage, a silent, hostile takeover. And it was all funded by a parasitic revenue stream. And that parasitic revenue stream, that was the Rain Diners Casino. And let's be clear, this was not some little side hustle. This was the economic engine powering his entire empire. It generated a steady passive income by literally bleeding the kingdom's visitors dry. And because of this, Crocodile could fund this massive network of hundreds, thousands of agents without ever having to rob a ship, without drawing any attention from the Marines. It was clean, quiet, and just ruthlessly effective. But maybe the scariest thing about Baroque Works wasn't even how it worked day to day. It was how it was built to last. Let's talk about how resilient this system really was. And this, right here, is the key. When a captain like Whitebeard dies, what happens? His crew, which was held together by love and loyalty, it just falls apart. But Baroque Works was completely different. The agents weren't there because they loved Crocodile. Come on. They were there for themselves, for what they could get out of it. Which means even if you take Crocodile out of the picture, the system itself, the network, the structure, the mission, it could just keep on chugging along with a new CEO at the top. The takeover of Alabasta, that was the ultimate proof of concept. The market penetration, if you want to call it that, was absolutely staggering. I mean, Baroque Works agents were everywhere. They had sleeper cells in the military. They had agitators stirring up trouble and leading the rebels. They even had moles inside the royal palace. They didn't attack Alabasta from the outside. No, they infected it like a virus from within, starting a civil war where they were secretly pulling the strings on both sides. And all of this brings us to one final, really chilling question. You can beat a person, right? You can even take down a powerful emperor of the sea. But how do you beat a system? How do you kill an idea? A cold, corporate model that can be copied and pasted anywhere, built on the simple, brutal foundation of exploiting human desperation. That's the true, terrifying legacy of Baroque Works.
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe and hit the bell to the later update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end and see you in the next video.